So yesterday, the Cowboys did exactly what I thought they were going to do. I picked 42-14. Final score was 45-10. Yeah, the Commanders keep it close. Look, these are NFL teams. They're going to give you moments where you think, hey, maybe today's the day. But the Cowboys are just too good. And the Cowboys at home, 13 wins in a row now. They just overpower everyone. Dak Prescott is putting himself into the thick of the MVP discussion if they get the 1 seed. Look, this is very simple. We can talk about who the MVP candidates are, but unless Dak Prescott goes off and throws for 6,000 yards, the Cowboys need to be the 1 seed for him to be a serious MVP candidate. Because if the Eagles are the 1 seed, if they win the division, it's going to be Jalen Hurts. That's just the way it works. If the 49ers are the 1 seed, Christian McCaffrey becomes the candidate for MVP. Maybe Brock Purdy, but it's more likely McCaffrey at this point. If the Lions are the 1 seed, who the hell knows? I think it makes it more likely that someone from the 1 seed in the AFC wins the MVP, whether that's Patrick Mahomes if the Chiefs do it, Lamar Jackson if the Ravens do it, Tua Tagovailoa or Tyreek Hill if the Dolphins do it, Josh Allen if somehow the Bills do it, and Myles Garrett if the Browns do it. So, yes, Dak could be the MVP, but they got to catch the Eagles before he'll be the MVP. Yesterday, he had 331 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a 142.1 passer rating. Dak is getting it done, and Deron Bland is getting it done. Record-setting 5th pick 6. I wrote about this earlier because there's talk now of Deron Bland being Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not ready to go there because let's be real about this. Pick 6 is the ultimate right place at the right time play. And yeah, he's gotten 5 of them, but it's right place at the right time. He was in the right place at the right time, and he did great things with the ball as a runner with the ball after making the interception. But if you're truly a shutdown corner, you're not getting the opportunities to have interceptions, much less pick 6s. That's the irony of all this. If he's viewed as a Deion Sanders, he's not going to have the opportunities to have pick 6s. Until the teams take him seriously, he'll keep having these opportunities. So the fact that he's had so many pick 6s is proof that he's not regarded by other teams as a guy who's truly an elite corner, and therefore he can't be Defensive Player of the Year. The evidence is the number of pick 6s. He's got too many interceptions to be treated as a serious Defensive Player of the Year contender because they keep throwing at him. At a certain point, if you are the kind of guy, if you're the equivalent of a dominant pass rusher, they just don't throw to you. They take away half the field with your presence. And when you look at what the pass rushers are doing, Myles Garrett with 13 sacks, Danielle Hunter with 12.5, TJ Watt with 11.5, Micah Parsons, teammate of Deron Bland with 11.5. Parsons is a more fitting Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So it adds to the discussion. And hey, if he adds a couple more, it may be inevitable. But I just think that the reality as it relates to defensive players, a pass rusher is far more dominant. A pass rusher is far more impactful. A pass rusher helps set up those pick 6s by getting the quarterback to rush the ball and throw it into a bad spot. And I'm not taking away anything from what Deron Bland has done. But again, Deion Sanders wouldn't have had 5 pick 6s. There's a reason why he's not on the list of the all-time, and maybe he is for all I know. Maybe even despite the fact that they rarely threw at him, he had enough to be on the list. But 5 is the record. Bland could have more, who knows? I still think that Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, all right now would be more viable candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, what could happen is, we see this on the offensive side all the time. There's one player who's Offensive Player of the Year and another offensive player is MVP. And that never makes sense to me because you would think that if the MVP is an offensive player, and it has been every year except 3, 1971, Alan Page, 1982, a kicker, Mark Mosley, 1986, Lawrence Taylor. It's otherwise been a running back or a quarterback every year they've given it out. You would think the MVP would also be the Offensive Player of the Year, but it's kind of a way to spread the wealth. So if Myles Garrett ends up being the MVP, if the Browns get the 1 seed in the AFC and Myles Garrett is the MVP candidate who gets a lot of votes and is in that conversation, whether he wins it or not, maybe the voters will say, well, okay, Deron Bland can be the Defensive Player of the Year if Myles Garrett is my MVP. That's a possibility. And I'm one of the voters. And again, I don't know how detailed I'm allowed to get into my deliberations. I don't know. I don't know why I shouldn't be. I'm for transparency. But I could see voters thinking MVP Myles Garrett, DaRon Bland Defensive Player of the Year. When the reality is, if a defensive player is in the MVP conversation, he's the Defensive Player of the Year. He is. So I'm kind of talking this out, and I'm talking myself out of this notion of splitting the baby between Myles Garrett and DaRon Bland. If Myles Garrett's MVP candidate, he's Defensive Player of the Year. And right now, that's who I'd vote for. If the season were to end today, and I've come to love that saying because I hate it so much. The only way the season ends today if something really bad happens. We don't want the season to end today. The only way the NFL is abandoning the season is if some bad shit goes down. So let's not say if the season ends today. But if the season were to end today, I'd make Myles Garrett the Defensive Player of the Year. All right. And hey, look, Cowboys are looking great. And Jerry Jones was all, hey, this is one of my greatest days ever. Cowboys owner. Well, no, let's not get too caught up in what happens on Thanksgiving. You still got plenty of games left, and you're still behind the Eagles. And you kind of saw your chance to close the gap go away on Monday night when the Eagles beat the Chiefs. You got to hope the Bills have something for the Eagles. You got to hope the 49ers have something for the Eagles, and you got to hope you beat the Eagles when they come to Dallas week 14, I believe it is. Sunday Night Football. I know that. When they play again, it's Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock. But, the Cowboys could win that game and still not ultimately catch the Philadelphia Eagles to win the division. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.